Okay, boys and girls, here we are with exercise 2b. Let's see how we go with this one. Oh, we've started it. Question 5 this time, a little bit harder. This time I'm finding 50% of $420. Alright, so again, using the same method as before, I am going to go 50 over 100 times 420. Now some of you may have noticed that 50% or 50 over 100 means the same as a half. So you could also, if you wanted, just find a half of 420. If that's not coming easy, let's do the fraction key thing again. So 50, fraction key, 100 times 420 equals, and I get an answer of 210. Because it's in dollars, I make it $210. Alright, can you have a go at the next two, please? 87.5% of 400 meters and 66 2/3% of 300 cars. So pause the video now and have a go at your own. Alright, if you're ready, let's see if you got the right answer. So 87.5, so that means I'm going to go 87.5 over 100. Of means times, so I'm going to multiply it by 400. Let's use our calculator. So that gives me 87.5 fraction key 100 arrow across if you've got the Casio times by 400. That gives me 350 as my answer. Now that was in meters in the question, so I'm going to write meters next to my answer. Okay, let's try the next one, H. Now that is 66 2/3. If you couldn't see that, okay. Now 66 2/3 over 100. I know you might be saying, how do you have over 100 if you have a fraction? Let's see if it works in our calculators or not. And we're going to multiply that by 300. Now if it doesn't work, we're going to do this instead. 66 2/3. The fraction line actually means the same as division. So if it doesn't work, we're going to do this instead. Okay? So if you try and do this using your fraction key and it doesn't give you the answer that I'm telling you, then maybe you need to try that one. So let's have a go. If you've got a Casio, to get 66 2/3, you have to press Shift and then the fraction key. And you should get 3 boxes up. If you have the Sharp, you just have to do this. So press 66 on the Sharp, press your fraction key. Casio people, now have the highlighter up in the top box, put a 2 in the top box, and then down the bottom put a 3. Now I don't think it's going to work on the Sharp, so and it probably won't work on the Casio either, so let's do that bottom line. So now arrow across if you've got the Casio so that the cursor is in the middle, and now divide by 100 on both the Sharp and the Casio. Then do the final calculation, times by 300, and you should get an answer of 200. So 66 2/3% of 300 cars is actually 200 cars. Okay, now question 6. Let's try some harder ones. Question 6 says find the original amount. So what you need to know in percentages, the original amount is whatever 100% was. Okay, so in this question, if they're telling you that 6% of something is an amount, so for example here, I'm going to write 6% equals 42. So this is a totally different concept, so it might blow your mind a little bit. You actually have to work out what 100% is. And that will be your answer, whatever 100% is. Okay, so I'm just going to move that down a bit because it's a little bit high. So this is what you need to do. You need to, first of all, do something that's called the unitary method. Okay? And if you've watched the video, you know from Maths Online, you know what I'm talking about. What's a unit? Well, a unit is 1% or 1 of something. Okay? Unit, if you remember in place value, is usually the number that's just in front of the decimal point. So what we're doing here is we're trying to figure out, okay, well, how do I change the 6 and 6% down to 1? And basically what you do is you divide by itself. So if the number you're trying to reduce down to 1 is 6, you divide by 6. Okay? So whatever you do to one side, you're going to do to the other. So if I've divided the left-hand side by 6 over here, I'm going to divide the 42 by 6. So on my calculator, I'm going to go 42 divided by 6. That gives me 7. Okay? So we have just broken everything down to 1%. So now what we have to do is we have to build it back up. So what do you do to change 1 back up to 100? Well, you're going to do the opposite, and you're going to times. Okay? So now I'm going to times by 100. Sorry, I don't like that. Alright, there we go. Let's fix that up. So that means over here, I have to times by 100. Okay, so 1 times 100 gives me 100% down here. That's my final answer. So to get my answer that's in the box, the answer I need, I do 7 times 100, and I get 700. My question up the top was in dollars, so don't forget your dollar amount. Can you pause the video now and see if you can do question A on your own? Alright, let's see how you went. So first of all, I am going to write out the question. 10% of an amount is $12. What's the original amount? So I've got to figure out what 100% is. And once I work out what goes in the box, I've got my correct answer. So let's see. We are going to reduce it down to 1% first. So 10 divided by what gives me 1? 10 divided by itself. 10 divided by 10. So do the same over here, and you're not always going to get a lovely whole number. Okay, so 12 divided by 10 on my calculator gives me 12 divided by 10 is 1.2. So don't always expect a lovely whole number. Once we've got what 1% is, we have a look at this side and we say to ourselves, what do I change 1 to 100? What do I do? Well, to make something from a smaller number to a bigger number, you multiply. And to change it from 1 to whatever that number is, you multiply by that number. So if I've got to change it to 100, I have to multiply by 100. So now I'm going to take my 1.2 and I'm going to times it by 100. So let's have a go. 1.2 on my calculator times by 100, and now I get 120. Put the dollar sign in and you've got your answer. Alright, we've got one more here. If you haven't had a go at this one yet, can you pause the video and see if you can have a go now? Okay, let's see how you went. So 15% of an amount. So I'm starting off with 15%, and I'm told that that amount is $54. Okay, so I need to, same as before, I need to work out what 100% is. That will tell me that original amount. Okay, so let's change it down to 1%. 15 divided by what gives me 1? Well, 15 divided by itself. So 15 divided by 15 will give me 1. So I have to go what's on the right hand side, and I've got to go 54 divided by 15. I get a decimal. I get 3.6. So now I have to build it back up again. What do I multiply 1 by to get 100? I multiply it by 100. So I'm going to do that over here too. Times by 100. So 3.6 on my calculator times 100 gives me 360. Now my answer, well, my question was in dollars, so my answer must also be in dollars. Alright, one final question. Let's do a, what's this called? A word problem. In a class of 25 students, 40% have been to England. How many students have not been to England? So to figure out the other percent, I have to say to myself, well, altogether I have 100%. If 40% of them have been to England, how much percent must be left? Well, 60%. So how many students? 60% of students have not been to England. So let's do the reduction down to 1 first. So I'm going to do my percentage. Come on, you can write. Here we go. It's not writing for me. It's not liking me at the moment. Let's try it again. No, it doesn't like me. What's going on? Okay, sorry about that. Let's try it again. So 40, there we go, percent equals 25 students. So let's work it down to 1% again. What do I do to 40 to get down to 1? I divide by 40. So I'm going to do that on my calculator, and I know it's about students. I'm going to do 25 divided by 40. Oops. We get an answer of 0.625. Let's hope that gets better, hey? Now remember, we want to know how many students have not been to England. And we worked out over here that it was 60%. So instead of working out 100%, we're now going to figure out, okay, well, what's 60%? So I say to myself, what do I do to the 1 to change it to 60? I multiply by 60. So I'm going to do the same with my decimal over here. I'm going to times it by 60. So I'm going to do 0.625 and I'm going to times it by 60, and that gives me 30, oh goodness me, 37 when my pen wants to work, 0.5. Now I can't have half a student, can I? So when we have 37.5, we tend to round it up to 38. Okay, so there's your answer for that one. That's exercise 2A and 2B done, I think. Is that 2C as well? No, it's 2B. So I hope you've had fun, and I will see you soon for 2C. Bye.